Greetings ladies and gentlemen, Adrian here. Welcome back to the channel and to another installment of my year-end series of videos. Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 biggest MMORPG news moments in 2017. Now I will be going through this top 10 list in a quick fire rapid succession, but will elaborate on all the points as I move along. At number 10 is Ultima Online has turned 20 years old in 2017. Now that is pretty incredible. I don't know how many MMOs out there that is 20 years old, and Ultima Online, is one of the founding fathers for the MMO genre, and we as MMO players have a lot to be thankful to UO for. If you're a veteran of MMORPGs, you probably know why, but if you're new to MMORPGs and have only recently started playing, Ultima Online back in 1997, even though with the technology limitations that they had, they were the pioneers of the online persistent world, an MMORPG world that's constantly online and constantly changing in a sandbox fantasy formula. Way back then, Ultima Online and EverQuest were the two big dogs in the MMORPG market. Ultima Online was known for that fantasy sandbox style of game, whereas EQ was more of the virtual theme park. And today, with all the MMORPGs that have come out, a lot of it is largely inspired, developers and studios, a lot of them grew up probably playing those games and are largely inspired by that. So I think it's pretty significant that Ultima Online is still running, it's still 20 years old. And yeah, congratulations Ultima Online. And you know what's pretty interesting? Ultima Online is still being funded by the subscription model, which is fascinating. So there's still an audience there, there's still people playing that game, and I do hope to see Ultima Online carry on for another 10 years maybe, because I at some point will want to jump in and check it out. I mean, I'm not that old, I'm not too young either, but Ultima Online is a game that I've not played, and I do want to go back to the roots of the MMORPG genre and see what it was like playing that game in a time when that thing was like the bomb. So to celebrate, UO had the Shattered Obelisk event this year, and they introduced brand new content and stuff, so that's pretty good to see that they are still coming up with stuff. So again, congratulations UO, you have inspired the new generation of MMORPGs, and hopefully you'll be around for a lot longer. Alright, moving on to number 9, and Blast Online is finally coming to North America and Europe in 2018. Now for those of you that have no idea what Blast is or have never heard of Blast Online, it is a Korean MMORPG that is different from any Asian MMORPG so far. When you think of Asian MMORPGs, the first thing that comes to mind is like, oh, okay, it's got great graphics, it's going to have a flashy combat system, and it's going to be grind heavy. You're not wrong there. But with Blast Online, what's different about them is they've created this MMO not to cater to the Eastern markets, but for the Western markets. So Blast Online is going to be one of those games that is a virtual theme park MMORPG that Western audiences and players will be absolutely very familiar with, which is why I am intrigued by it. Earlier this year, NeoWiz, the developers, they pushed out their closed beta to test the game in Japan, in Korea itself, and in Russia, and you know what? It didn't do so well, because I don't think Asian audiences, the Eastern markets, are willing to accept that, this game by one of their own is so different and it's adapting a Western style of an MMO. I think the Eastern markets they'd rather continue having those grind heavy, flashy combat type MMOs, which is kind of a shame, I suppose. So the closed beta didn't really do too well in Japan, in Korea, and Russia for those reasons. And on top of that, the game wasn't really optimized properly. There was problems with the engine, there's problems with the graphics and the combat system. So in June, I think NeoWiz said, you know what, we're not gonna release in the Western market, so it's not coming. And then all of a sudden, in November, they came out again and said, yep, we fixed those issues. We are bringing the game to North America and Europe in 2018, and it's going to be coming to Steam on top of that. So I'm naturally very, very excited. I don't know how many of you guys out there have heard about this game, but do go check it out. So I'm really looking forward to Blast Online, and hopefully, I do hope that what they've marketed about their game is going to be proven through, because I am really interested in seeing an Asian MMORPG that is so influenced and designed like a Western MMORPG that I can jump in knowing that I'm not gonna see those typical common Asian MMORPG tropes, which I absolutely cannot stand. So bring it on, Blast Online 2018. I'm keeping an eye out for you. At number 8, MMORPGs are coming to your smartphones. In 2017, two big MMORPGs announced that they are creating apps for smartphones, and that's Black Desert Online and that's ArcAge. Both of them now have, games on Android and Apple on the App Store and on Google Play that is somewhat related to their MMORPGs, and that's got me thinking, oh my goodness, is this going to be a start of something, some new trend that MMOs feel that they have to, put something out on your mobile device? For Black Desert Online, it's called BDO Mobile, and it's currently in beta testing in Korea and Southeast Asia right now. And so far, the app only allows you to play with the character creator. I mean, they really take pride in that character creator, so that's something you can do on your phone now. And I do believe they have plans to expand the app and add some gameplay to it. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet. Whereas on ArcAge side of things, there are a game on the mobile device is called ArcAge Begins. Now that's got a lot more depth and flesh to it. Like, you can do fishing, you can do trading and crafting, and then there's PvE questing and PvP as well from like a isometric view, I believe. And it's nothing to do with ArcAge, the MMORPG. I believe it's in like a different time period and everything. So it's like a companion game, which again, I'm still trying to understand the reason behind it. But when I look at it from the bigger picture, both of these games, it's kind of funny, both of these games that have gone mobile now, that have created mobile game companion apps or whatever, are both Asian MMORPGs. BDO is, ArcAge is, they're both Korean games. And here's a fun fact for you. The largest market in the world for mobile game revenue is in fact in the Asian region. It's in my region, Southeast Asia, and it's also in just Asia in general. Games coming out of China and everything. There's so many app developers and makers, game developers moving to my part of the world to create, mobile game apps, because the revenue made from these gaming apps is super lucrative. So maybe I can understand why these two MMOs are trying to cash in on that, try and see if they can, grab a slice of that pie. Whether or not these two gaming apps will be, expanded further to include a separate game story or whatever from their MMORPG PC counterparts remains to be seen. But it's got me thinking, what other MMOs will look at that and say, is that really an area that I want to go into, mobile gaming? Because from my perspective, I don't think that's a great idea. If you really want to play an MMORPG, again, this is subjective, totally subjective, but if you really want to get immersed and have that total MMORPG experience, you'd play it on a PC, with a good computer and a decent sized monitor, and just immerse yourself, or even on the consoles. But mobile devices, I've played a couple of MMO on that I found on the Android, Google Play, and they're just garbage, man. Absolute garbage. Not worth the space that it takes up on your phone. So I don't like hearing that MMOs are thinking about doing that. It's pretty significant, because what other MMOs are going to follow suit, I don't know, but I hope it doesn't become a thing. Cross-platform play, on the other hand, is completely different, because it's not creating something new, and it's not catering to a specific type of audience. It simply means that if you enjoy playing on the PC, you can now take that same experience with you on the go. I find that to be a little different than having to create something entirely different from what your PC game is. So games like RuneScape and Albion Online now do have cross-platform play, and to be fair, those MMORPGs are very simplistic in graphic nature and in gameplay, so it doesn't really take a lot to run and everything. So if you're creating apps for that, that's in my opinion fine. But if you're looking to branch out your MMO and create something entirely different for mobile phones, I'm against that somewhat. So I'll keep an eye on this MMO mobile development thing and see if 2018 is gonna, if more MMOs are gonna follow suit, or is this gonna be these two, BDO and ArcAge. They always seem to be competing against each other for some reason. At number 7, Marvel Heroes shutting down. I've covered this a lot on my channel lately because, as I've said so many times, I am a Marvel fan, and Marvel Heroes was one of those MMOs on a list that I was going to go and review for my top 10 reasons to play, new player review, and I had it in my mind that, okay, 2018 is going to be the year I'm going to jump in and check out Marvel Heroes, give it a fair shot and just review it. Unfortunately, that did not happen, because Gazillion Entertainment had a epic meltdown this calendar year, and especially in the last few months. They fired all their staff and everything, and there was a scandal with Gazillion Entertainment CEO, and Disney stepped in and was like, nah, we're just gonna yank that plug. So In the end, Marvel Heroes got shut down. The original shutting down date was the 31st of December this year. And then all of a sudden, there was like, nope, Gazillion fired everybody on Thanksgiving Eve, on the eve of Thanksgiving. And there was no one left, you know, to run the office or to work on the servers or anything. So it ended up shutting down on November the 27th, which was like a full month before the original shutdown date. So that's pretty sad. I mean, the entire thing about how the studio mishandled the IP ever since they announced that they were gonna create the console port, the Marvel Heroes Omega. I mean, I can only give you guys so much information about that because I only jumped in for like 24 hours. As soon as I found out that the game was closing down, I just jumped in to do a quick review, unfinished review at this point, and you can watch that. I'll put a link in the description box below, but I'm in no position to tell you the full story. I'm just telling you what other players have said, you know, in mediums like Reddit and the Discord and other places. So go do some, you know, research if you really want to know more about that. I think it's kind of tragic because this is an officially licensed Marvel IP game, and there's not many out there, especially in the MMO scape. They've lost it now. You know, if Disney wants to create another Marvel MMO, I think they'll think twice about it. Like, oh, are we gonna go down that same path again? It's gonna be another risk, and I do apologize for that. I'm sitting right next to the window, and it's like 6 p.m. here, so there's traffic outside. Anyway, again, very unfortunate what happened to Marvel Heroes. If you are a Marvel Heroes player and have been a long time player and you spend a lot of money, I do feel sorry for you and for everyone that, you know, lost their main MMO, whatever. Hope you guys have moved on. And to any of this ex-Gazillion staff watching, I mean, the upper management kind of screwed you over because they left you without any PTO and severance packages and whatever. So I hope you guys have found new jobs. So I guess rest in peace, Marvel Heroes. At number 6, Elder Scrolls Online, Final Fantasy XIV, 10 million players. 2017 is proving to be an excellent year for these two MMORPGs, the Elder Scrolls Online and Final Fantasy XIV. Both have released pretty excellent expansions this year, Morrowind for ESO and Stormblood for Final Fantasy XIV. And both were confident enough to, you know, release the amount of players that have played through the game. I think both of their press releases this year that made the news all over the place was that ESO had 10 million unique players, and they created a 10 million stories campaign where they got everybody to share a favorite story about ESO, and, you know, there's awesome prizes that they could win. And Final Fantasy, on the other hand, also pretty similar thing, and they did it before ESO. 10 million unique players to play through Eorzea. When you step back and look at it in terms of, you know, as an MMORPG and that's, you know, metrics of the amount of players, in some ways it doesn't matter, but from a revenue point of view, that's pretty significant, because if it was a free-to-play game, who cares? The Elder Scrolls Online is a buy-to-play game, and with 10 million unique players, that's quite a significant amount of money. Of course, it's gonna sound way better if it was 10 million subscribers. Then we're talking big numbers, which is, I think, what Final Fantasy XIV has managed to achieve somewhat. But again, it could be just Sony and Square Enix just boasting at this point. But again, it's something that we should not look down on. You know, 10 million players for these two MMORPGs is a pretty big deal. And here's why. What do ESO and Final Fantasy XIV have in common? Both of them were flops. Let's not sugarcoat it. At their first iteration, first launch, ESO was pretty bad. Final Fantasy XIV got shut down. And both came back and made incredible U-turns, quality of life, gameplay, you know, feedback, content. Now, 10 million players each. So, for those of you that have been playing these two games, you guys must feel pretty ecstatic. And, you know, for people like me to jump in this calendar year and review these two games was a pretty eye-opening experience. And I guess a big congratulations goes out to ESO and Final Fantasy XIV. And hopefully you guys can increase that number next year and keep it up, I suppose. At number 5, the Secret World relaunch. This one's pretty big news for me because I am so involved with the Secret World MMORPG. I've been a lifetime subscriber since 2012 when the game launched. And coming into 2016 was a pretty poor year for the Secret World. There wasn't any content coming out. You know, developers, they did have their bi-weekly live streams, and I'm talking about Funcom as developers. They kept a very poker face. They did not release any information about what's going to happen. Is there going to be new content? They stopped introducing the side stories, which is the main, I wouldn't say main, but it's decent PvE content missions to the game. They stopped introducing that, so us as players didn't really have any new content to go forward with. We had to just do the same things over and over again. No new dungeons and nothing. And then moving into 2017, early 2017, still nothing. And then finally, based on the annual report, all of a sudden now they come out and say, okay guys, the Secret World will relaunch in 2017. And I am not kidding you, I was freaking out. I was freaking out so hard, because in my mind I thought, oh my god, what does that mean for us players? What does that mean? Is it going to shut down and relaunch again? Does that mean my progress is going to be reset? Does that mean I'm going to lose my lifetime subscription status? There was a lot of chaos and uncertainty that just filled us players with so much dread, and I honestly thought that it was going to be it. They were going to shut down and then restart the game and just increase marketing and whatever to get new players. I thought that's what they were going to do, but I had no idea that they created a second game, to sit right next to the first one, the Secret World. So they relaunched the Secret World as Secret World Legends, a free-to-play MMORPG on Steam. They reworked the combat system. They, fixed a lot of the questing issues in terms of story cohesiveness and flow. The game is a lot more easier and streamlined for the masses. And Secret World Legends is one of those MMOs now that is polarizing the community. A lot of longtime TSW vets, hate the game, whereas on the other side, a lot of people saying the changes and the relaunch is great. It's just exactly what it needed. And regardless of which side of the fence you are, their revenue reports don't lie. I mean, I watched the quarterly financial reports that Funcom releases, and Secret World Legends is making money now, which to me is good news. And now season 2 is going to come out for Secret World Legends, so I'm really excited about that. They brought back their old lead writer, Scriptnomancer, and yeah, really excited. So that was quite the big news for me, shocking moment, especially considering I have a high stake in Secret World Legend because of the lifetime sub, but it all turned out well in the end. And then the real shocker for me, and this is not the MMORPG related, but it's somewhat related, is that Johnny Depp is gonna produce a Secret World TV show. And when the first time I read that on the news, I didn't know if I should laugh or punch the air, because that's something I've wanted for a long time, and at the same time I can't believe that this is happening. And of all people, Johnny Depp, because how to explain this without sounding really nasty, he's a character, and the character he plays in his movies is just so Secret World material, for those of you that know what I'm talking about. So it's like the perfect match. But there's no news on the TV show since its announcement, so we'll wait and see what happens in 2018. At number 4, I've got 4 alphabets for you. PUBG. How the fuck did this game become so popular? 2017 is going to be known for 2 things. 1, we'll probably talk about higher up the list, and 2, Battle Royale and PUBG. PlayerUnknown's Battleground, I don't know the full story. I have no idea how it went from, an idea, a concept of an online multiplayer arena battle FPS type game into becoming one of the highest grossing Steam games of all time, with the highest amount of Steam concurrent players, just smashing records left and right. It's already on the Xbox. Man, PUBG is breaking. It seems like they're breaking records every 2 weeks now. They're making so much money, and all of a sudden, this battle royale genre is taking over. It's incredible. PUBG, in my eyes, it's like a freak of nature. Now when you talk about great MMO, online competitive esport type games, PUBG is gonna be right up there in the conversation with Dota and Counter-Strike. And now the Battle Royale genre with PUBG, and their success have sparked more games of that type. I mean, Fortnite, which had their own thing with the single player, introduced their Battle Royale mode, and that got 2 million players in the first month. So there's a newfound audience for this type of genre, and as an MMORPG player, it's not something that I necessarily look and say, oh yeah, that's great, I want to play that. But what it means for the MMORPG genre in general is that we are becoming more of a niche, with games like these taking the spotlight and being propelled up there into superstardom, because it seems like games like PUBG are being created for the younger generation, I want to say. I mean, I'm sure there are guys like us in our age and older that do enjoy that type of games, but what I'm saying is that because of its popularity, the new generation of MMO players will probably skip MMOs and go towards that type of game, because you know it's the new thing, it's instant gratification, it's PvP, it's competitive, and unlike MMOs, you know, you don't have that massive time investment to get to end game and, you know, the journey. I don't think newer or younger players like or enjoy that leveling process, whereas PUBG and, you know, MOBAs and whatever, it's just instant gratification. You jump in, you play, you have fun, you get kill cam moments, you know, and it's great for streaming, it's fun to watch, you can earn tons of money by playing competitions, just stuff like that that I think the younger generation prefer. And that's gonna have a rolling effect in online gaming in the next year or so. I almost think that, you know, MMORPGs really need to fight back and, you know, grab our space in the popular spotlight again, or else we'll be forever in the shadow of games like that. And I have nothing against PUBG. I've seen people play it, I've seen the reviews, it does look fun. And in fact, I've played games like PUBG, competitors, like rip-off type of games, which I found really fun. And oh well, I guess it's one of those things we'll never be able to explain fully. It's a phenomenon, it's a freak of nature, and gosh, what, I don't know in 2018 what's going to happen. The developers Bluehole, they've made so much money that they're making their own MMORPG. It's going to be something like a steampunk cyber sky space thing. I don't know, I haven't really looked into that, but they are coming out with their own MMORPG. I don't know if that's coming out in 2018 or not, but man, they have just dominated the MMO news space this year. At number 3, dun, 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 Star Wars Battlefront 2 and the whole loot box microtransaction debacle. This is, how can we not talk about this? I mean, this has made the front page of every news website, every MMO website, the website that I write for. Even I wrote the news about this, you know, and all the big guns, even non-gaming news websites covered this news because it is freaking EA, it's freaking Disney, and it's freaking Star Wars. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole debate of whether it's gambling or not gambling. I just want to talk about loot box microtransactions now that it's in the spotlight and what it means for MMORPGs. This is pretty big. You know, a lot of people's like, oh, EA sucks for doing this, EA sucks for doing that, blah, 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 blah. Here, as an MMORPG player, I'm thinking to myself when this first hit, like, wait a minute, it's nothing new for MMORPG players. We've been going through this microtransactions, RNG loot box thing for years, and nobody says any damn thing about it. And it's completely different in that regard from what Star Wars was doing, because with Star Wars, you know, you had to pay a premium up front to play the game. You had to buy the game on Origin, and then once you get in, and then you've got all these microtransaction loot boxes with some progression in them that you got to pay money for. And you know, that is not the biggest issue. The biggest issue that people are making out of it is that you're exploiting kids and you're making them buy, and you know, it's gambling essentially. So that's what the main concern was in the main media. Whereas with MMORPGs, there are people saying, as I said, you know, it's not a new thing. Why aren't people going apeshits about what MMOs have been doing for years? And the answer to that is, you know, it's not a black and white answer. There's a gray area there. Like in a free-to-play MMO, you're playing the game, you're accessing the game for free, and they have to make revenue somewhere. So I can only assume that microtransaction RNG loot boxes are one of the best ways to do it, because of that gambling nature. People do want to, you know, if they do want to support the game, that's one way they can. Whether or not it's ethical, that is the discussion there. But that's a way for free-to-play games to make money. I'm not defending free-to-play MMOs that do this. In fact, if you know me and if you watch, especially my Store Raider videos, I really don't like RNG. I hate the idea of loot boxes. So that's where I stand on it. But again, it's nothing new for MMORPGs. We've had this for so long. With free-to-play games, again, they need to make money. And then you've got the buy-to-play games. You're paying a fee to access the game. There's an optional subscription if you want it. And then there's RNG loot boxes. I mean, the biggest buy-to-play games I can think of that have this is The Elder Scrolls Online and even Guild Wars 2. Both of them have RNG loot boxes, but it's mainly cosmetic in there. There's no progression system and whatever. So again, it all comes down to what you are looking for. If you want to support the game that way, go for it, because it's your money. But is it ethical? Is it gambling? That's another discussion entirely. And that 2017 will also go down as, microtransactions in the spotlight. Frick, even governments are talking about it. So that's 2018. I don't know if MMOs will take a closer look at what they're doing with microtransactions. I don't know how many of the studios are looking at what's happening with EA and Disney taking the flack for what they've done. How many of them will, maybe think about, okay, you know what, since it's getting a lot of attention, let's just tone down a little bit and let's try and, either make it more worthwhile or just reduce the RNG nature of it. And maybe some of them will be like, you know what, great, EA's taking the flack, so we can, keep doing what we're doing and we'll never get caught. So that's my 2 cents on the whole thing. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. And 2018, if there's any new MMORPGs that are coming out in the future or whatever, microtransactions, I don't mind. RNG loot boxes in the store, don't want to see it. And number 2, BlizzCon 2017. I think it's fair to say that this year's BlizzCon smashed the hype meter simply because of how big the news was and what they're going to be bringing next year. The first thing is, of course, the new expansion, Battle for Azeroth. They released that cinematic trailer and it looks awesome. And I'm jumping into World of Warcraft for the first time this December, and I'm making my way through, the Burning Crusade currently, and I'm gonna get all the way up to level cap and see what Legion is about, and hopefully that new player review will come out sometime in January. But so far, I'm really enjoying my time in World of Warcraft, and next year's expansion will be really interesting because it's gonna be a long wait, but that's gonna be my first WoW expansion, and for 13 years I've missed out on that experience of being in a major WoW content release with so many other players online, and that's something I'm looking forward to. Now, the second big news out of BlizzCon is, of course, the WoW Classic, the Classic Nostalgia server or whatever. That is pretty interesting because prior to that being announced, World of Warcraft, they've got many third-party servers, nostalgia servers that are run by players or whatever that has locked progression systems where the level cap was only such and such, where some servers are only vanilla and there was no expansion releases in those nostalgia servers, so you're essentially playing what WoW was at release. And because of how because of the current age of WoW and how popular it is, I'm sure there are many players who prefer that vanilla style of gameplay and the progression back then, and they want to recapture that magic when they first jumped into World of Warcraft. And I suppose the newer expansions and how, I don't know, streamlined the game or whatever it has become is not to their taste. So going back to a classic WoW server was a great thing. And I don't know how long these third-party servers have been going on for, but over the years Blizzard have come out and said, we don't really support that because it's our game and we're not making money from it. So I believe it was early this year where Blizzard called in all the one or two of the nostalgia servers. I think Nostalrius was one of them. They sat down and have a discussion about what they're going to do with these third-party servers moving forward. And at the end of the day, they decided to shut that down, which again is unfortunate. But the result of that is that now Blizzard can put out their own. So fair play to Blizzard. You take away something that the WoW community wants, but then you're introducing your own at the cost of course, you want to be paid for that. So I'm assuming you're gonna have to pay for WoW Classic. Either it's gonna be a subscription or something. If they make it buy to play or whatever, that'll be pretty cool. But I don't know. I think Blizzard's gonna want your full pockets for that, so it's probably going to be a subscription. But again, that's super exciting news for long-time WoW players, veterans of the vanilla who really want to go back and capture that magic. So kudos to Blizzard for introducing that. And finally, 2007. When I think about WoW, I think about the 4,932 players who've told me about patch 735. Patch 735 is going to be significant because it's going to introduce zone and content scaling. And World of Warcraft has never had this. I'm going through the content myself now, and I can tell you that, the leveling in WoW, you're going to outlevel most zones and very, very quickly, which means you can't really finish the entire, lots of the zone quests and main stories before you have to move on to the next zone and to the next zone and to the next expansion, if you want to stay on level to make sure that you're getting the maximum amount of experience points. So to address that concerns from the player base, 735, the patch is coming out sometime next year, I think, January or February, as the community has told me. So that's gonna improve new players or even existing players who are leveling up alts. It's gonna improve their leveling experience significantly. And all that was announced in BlizzCon 2017, which is why, you know, it was one of the most talked about BlizzCons in recent history. I believe, like, the entire live stream thing was their most watched BlizzCon over the internet as well. So fair play, Blizzard. At number 1 is an MMO that I have not publicly talked about in my channel to date. I don't think I've mentioned it in any of my videos out there, but the time has come. Ashes of Creation. The biggest news of 2017 for me involves Ashes of Creation by Intrepid Studios. Now, I've heard about this game coming into 2017 by friends in the industry, as well as fellow writers for the MMO site that I work for. And on top of that, you know, you guys, subscribers, have also been, you know, telling me about what this game is about and when's it coming out and everything. So I was well aware that Intrepid Studios were going into a Kickstarter campaign to fund their idea of an MMORPG that wants to make the genre relevant again and fun again, and bring back that magic of exploring uncharted territories with players, just to bring back the massively multiplayer part of the MMORPG. And at the very beginning, I was very skeptical. You know, I read through their pitch and I'm like, it sounds great. It does. I like what they're doing with it. It's an original world. It's gonna have original stories. Some of their concepts almost sound old school in nature with how Sandbox is going to be and how much the community is going to play a part in shaping that world. For me, that sounds very, very Sandbox, and I thought, you know, with what MMOs have turned out to be in, you know, this decade, it's all about theme parks, and Sandbox really has taken a back seat to the theme park MMOs. And what Intrepid was trying to do, I thought, do people really want this? And then the Kickstarter went live. They were asking for $735,000, I think it was. They were asking for that amount, and in 24 hours, they smashed it. Ashes of Creation raised over $2 million US in 24 hours. That's when, you know, I sat back and I was just shocked. I was like, okay, I take that back. People really do want this sort of experience in the MMOs. I don't know if it's because there's a burnout in terms of the theme park MMO. Are we seeing too much Asian grindy MMOs? Are we seeing too much gimmicky theme park MMOs that offers nothing to what games like WoW and Guild Wars 2 and ESO is already, you know, delivering? So Ashes of Creation's Kickstarter campaign proved me wrong, that there is an audience out there, and, you know, it's sort of reassuring to me that MMORPGs is definitely not dead. There's still an audience. There's still people willing to throw money behind an idea, a premise of a great game. And since then, since the Kickstarter finished, I've kept in touch with the development of the game. I'm a founder. I do have a founder's pack, and I do have beta access in 2018. So I'm excited. I can't wait to jump in and, you know, see what Ashes of Creation is all about. But really, that was the biggest thing for me, because in terms of relating it back to the MMORPG genre and for this industry, I think Ashes of Creation will make a lot of people sit up and take notice of MMOs again. It still isn't as popular for World of Warcraft, and I don't want it to be. We don't need a new MMO to challenge World of Warcraft. That's over. That's done. Nobody needs that. Why do we need to challenge the established thing just to, you know, make a quick buck? Games like WildStar and stuff have tried to do that and has failed miserably. So I don't think MMOs should do that. They should have a strong, clear idea of what they want to play. If the game you're creating is something that you know you want to play and you have an audience for it, that's going to bring in so many more people. So I'm firmly behind the Ashes of Creation bandwagon. My hype meter, you know, at the time after the Kickstarter was so high. I just didn't want to talk about it at the time, at the risk of sounding, you know, too soon maybe, because if the game tanks, then all hope is lost, at least for me, for seeing the next big MMORPG. Because in 2018 and beyond, name me one big studio that's coming up with a new AAA. Go on. How many? So far, all we've got are the early access development one. You know, we've got Crowfall, we've got Chronicles of Hilaria, we have Pantheon, and the Camelot. You know, these games are all early access. They're all being funded by players at the moment, and there isn't really that next big AAA big studio MMORPG. So these crowdfunding ones are all we've got left in terms of seeing something new and fresh, unless you're talking about what's happening over with the Asian MMOs and how many they are churning out per year. So I think I've rambled on a lot about this, and I said it was going to be a quick rapid fire. It ended up being like a storytelling session about, you know, the top 10 biggest news for MMORPGs this year. So I'm going to wrap it up. That's my number 10 to number 1. Hey, feel free to share your thoughts. Were any of these the biggest news for you, or is there something else? Leave them in the comment section below. I would love to read that stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit that like button if you enjoy my content, and feel free to subscribe to my channel for all kinds of MMO content, discussion, live streams, reviews, all that good stuff. So once again, I'm GRM Adrian, and I thank you for watching. Hey, welcome to the end screen. If you've made it this far, it means you've watched the entire video, and I thank you very much for that. If you want to watch more videos, you can click on the cards at the bottom here. Anyone will do. And if you like my content, you can subscribe to the channel by hitting the big round button down here. See you guys in the next video.